Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular City Council meeting, Titusville City Council meeting on January 22nd, 28th. I'm doing good. 2020 at 6:30 p.m. We have a quorum. I'll call the meeting to order. Clerk, please read procedures for public to speak.
Individuals wishing to speak on public and non-public hearing agenda items must complete a sign-up card and present it to the clerk prior to the item being introduced. Those wishing to speak on quasi-judicial public hearings must complete a sign-up card and sign the oath. Sign-up and oath cards are available on the table in the council chamber. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions from the public present. This opportunity is offered twice in the meeting, and individuals may speak at either the first or second petitions, but not both. No sign-up card is required. Citizens shall not comment on any issue more than once during the meeting. All comments except petitions and requests must address the pending issue, and citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Clerk. We have Pastor Chris Garrison of Faith Baptist Church here to give the invocation this evening. If you will come forward, sir.
Thank you, Council, for the privilege of doing this invocation. Let's pray. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Father, I stand in this assembly tonight proclaiming your preeminence, but also declaring your desire to have a plan. As you spoke to Jeremiah, that there is a desire to prosper us and to bring us to an expected end. Father, we know that your ways are above our ways and your thoughts are above our thoughts. But Father, we ask for your blessing tonight, and we ask for your presence in this meeting tonight. We ask, Father, that you would give wisdom to each member of the council as they handle topics that impact the lives of our city and our daily lives and our coming future. Father, I pray for cool heads, and I pray for kind words, and I pray for respect to be shown on both sides of these tables tonight. Father, we thank you for the privilege that you give us as free people in the United States of America to meet in assemblies such as this, to discuss the things that matter to us, to discuss the things that of which we are all a part, of which we all partake. And so, Father, I thank you for the freedom that we have. We thank you for the lives that have been sacrificed so that we can have these freedoms. For the men and women who have paid the highest prices. Father, for the men and women who came home, and for the ones who did not. We thank you for their families as well, and for the sacrifices they made to loan their sons and daughters to our country so that we could continue to be a free country. Father, we think also of the freedom that we have in Jesus Christ. We thank you for the sacrifice that foreshadowed the freedom that we have in our country today, and the sacrifice of your Son for our sin. We thank you for the blood that was shed so that we could come to you and be redeemed to you and be restored in relationship to you. Father, we pray for everything that's done tonight. Pray for every word that is spoken. We pray for every thought that is expressed, for every decision that is made, for every vote that is taken. Father, from every period at the end of every sentence, including every sentence, we pray that you would be honored and glorified. We pray that your will would be done. Thank you for each of these council members. Thank you for the time that they spend. Thank you for the sacrifice of their time and the time that they spend on an evening like this away from their families to discuss the needs of our city. And so, Father, we pray that you bless their families as they wait at home for them as well. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Next item is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is approval of minutes. I'm not sure we have any.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
move for approval.
I don't
Oh,
think,
we don't have anything.
say again? No, I don't see anything listed there. I wasn't sure, but
No minutes.
is there any minutes? No, okay.
No
Sorry.
minutes. Forget it.
Okay. Next item, we have we completed our presentations at the last meeting. There aren't any additional presentations at this point?
Correct, sir.
All right, thank you. Boards and commissions, Flag and Memorial Committee.
Yes, sir. Accept the Flag and Memorial Committee's annual report as presented, sir.
Do I have a motion?
No, wait, we got to receive.
Oh, I'm sorry, you got to get it. I thought it was written. Sorry. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I am wonderful, sir. Thank you again for giving me the honor of being before you. One of the things that we've decided this year is rather than you having to look at my face again this year, please you direct your attention to the screens. We've got a little presentation of some of the activities that we did while I read our report to you.
Before you do that, would
Yes,
you
sir.
give your name and address for the record?
My name is
Everybody knows who that face goes to then.
My name is Alterio, and I live in Laner Park.
Thank you.
All right. Titusville Flag and Memorial Committee 2019 Annual Report. Members, officers, and members, per resolution number 27-2003, the Flag and Memorial Committee held elections on October 15th, 2019. The committee unanimously elected Alterio as chairman and Carol Pedersen as the vice chairwoman. The current committee comprised the following members: Alterio, chairman, representing the Knights of Columbus and the Civil Air Patrol; Carol Pedersen, vice chairperson, representing the Pilots Club of Titusville, and she also represents Miss Betsy Ross; Bob Swink from the Elks Lodge 2113; Tom Patterson, Disabled American Vets, post number 109; Tommy Northcutt from American Legion Post 1; Carrie Fuller from American Legion Post 1 Auxiliary; Barbara Rathbone from the Valiant Air Command; Nancy Lester, Daughters of the American Revolution; Karen Conklin from the American Space Museum; and Sam de Blasio from the Friends of the Cemetery; R.J. Moulton from the Disabled Vets Post 109. Action items. Per Resolution 27-2003, members request the Council's affirmation of the committee's officers and membership for 2019 and 2020. Meetings. In 2018-2019, the committee held 8 regular meetings. One regular meeting was canceled due to a lack of a quorum. The committee traditionally suspends meetings June through September of each year. Chairman and the members continue to provide assistance regarding protocol for flying the American flag on an annual basis. Ceremonies. The committee sponsored the following ceremonies this year. January 26, 2019, the Astronaut Memorial in partnership with the American Space Museum. May 27th, Memorial Day ceremony in Veterans Park in partnership with the American Legion Post 1. June 14th, Flag Day ceremony and massing of the colors. This ceremony is held annually with the Elks Club. September 14th, Titusville Blue Mass. Service was held at St. Teresa's Church. November 11th, Veterans Day Memorial Ceremony at Veterans Park in partnership with American Legion Post 1. The committee supported the following ceremonies, but were not the sponsors. May 27th, Memorial Day ceremony at Brevard Veterans Cemetery in partnership with the Friends of the Cemetery. And November 11th, Veterans Day memorial service at Brevard Veterans Cemetery in partnership again with Friends of the Cemetery. Unfortunately, this year was canceled due to weather. Avenue of the Flags, U.S. Highway 1. The new flags or banners are still continuing to be a great cost saving compared to the free flying flags that we used to have in the past. The flags fly continuously except during the Christmas season when they're replaced with the holiday decorations. Perhaps one of the least known aspects of the Avenue of the Flags is that they exist solely through the donation and generosity of our community members. The committee wishes to thank city officials for supporting the above efforts. We especially thank the city manager, Mr. Scott Larice, Public Works Department staff for their commitment to the Avenue of the Flags and the patriotic events. The committee also recognizes District 1 Brevard County Parks and Recreations Department for its commitment and assistance in our patriotic events. We thank our community for their patriotism in helping us fly the flags on U.S. Highway 1 and for supporting our community's annual patriotic events. This report was unanimously approved and the Flag and Memorial Committee, November 19, 2019. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you, sir. I'll accept a motion to accept that report as given.
And move to accept the Flag and Memorial Committee's annual report as presented.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Theriot.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good year.
Thank you.
I'm sure I'll see you soon.
I hope so.
Absolutely.
Open invitation to any of our events.
Thanks, Al. Next item is the Historic Preservation Board. Do we have anybody that's giving that presentation? There we are.
sir.
Yes, we do.
Hi, name and address for the record, please.
Yes. Tony Chavleau, proud owner of the historic Norwood House, 715 Tropic Street. I am a new member to the Historic Preservation Board, so this will be my first time making a presentation for them. I'm presenting the semi-annual report. This past 6 months, the board has done quite a few great things. We held the annual Historic Preservation Board workshop on October 15th, 2019 at the Harry T. Moore Social Services Center. The theme of the workshop was neighborhood revitalization through historic preservation, and it targeted the historic West Titusville neighborhood, where I live, located west of the railroad tracks, generally between Garden Street and South Street. It was well attended by diverse neighbors. I met people that I hadn't seen in the neighborhood ever before, and we had great refreshments. The board approved the designation of the Gibson Rivers House located at 723 South Palm Avenue, and by adding it to the city's local historic register as the 12th locally designated historic structure in Titusville. And they worked on the narrative to create a historic interpretive display board for the Gibson Rivers House. And we also added it to the brochure, which is going into another printing of 1,000 copies. The board had submitted a small matching grant application for a proposed historic booklet to the Florida Division, and it was ranked 25 out of 54 applications. And the grant will be awarded provided the state legislature funds the grant program in this legislative session. The board reviewed and approved a proposed canopy to be installed to a contributing building in the downtown historic district at 345 South Washington Avenue. It was historically it was a bank and then a store, and now it's going to be, well, it is already renamed the Old Bank Tavern there on the corner at Washington and Julia. They also approved the Launch Now development building renovation plans located at 300 to 310 South Washington Avenue, since the development is renovating a historic structure in the downtown mixed-use zoning district, which requires the Historic Board's approval. They discussed their 2018-2019 budget goals. And the work plan is the board will continue to work on strategies to encourage property owners of historic structures, buildings, and houses to participate in the listing of their buildings on the city's local historic register, of which we're very proud.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from council? I see none. I'll need a,
I could move to accept the Historic Preservation Board semi-annual report.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Next item, planning and zoning.
Yes, sir. Accept the Planning and Zoning Commission semi-annual report as written.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved, sir.
I have a motion and a second. I do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign, passes unanimously.
Yes, sir. Item 6D is the Planning and Zoning Commission. The terms of regular members Brian Bobbitt, Patricia Hare, Jane Spidell, and Sean Williams expire on January 31st, 2020. Regular members Bobbitt and Spidell have expressed their willingness and desire to continue to serve on the board in their current positions for a 2-year term to expire on January 31st, 2022. Regular members Hare and Williams advised us that they would not wish to be considered for reappointment at this time. Alternate member Susan Idelson currently serves as an alternate member with a term to expire on January 31st, 2022. She has expressed her willingness and desire to serve on this board as a regular member, and if not appointed as a regular member, she'd like to continue to serve as an alternate member. There's also one application on file for your consideration. Mr. Robert Johnston has expressed his willingness and desire to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission as a regular or an alternate member with a term to expire on January 21st, 2022.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to ask that this be handled in two separate things. The first one is for Mr. Bobbitt and Ms. Spidell. For regular motions, they seem like they've both done a good job, and if someone sees it that way or wants to make a motion.
I thought I hit it. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we reappoint Mr. Bobbitt and Ms. Spidell to a 4-year term.
Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. I don't know if they're both out there. They aren't. But the second part is for a alternate member. We do have one person, and this has nothing to. We have two, actually, I guess. But I'd kind of like, as she just came on board, and we talked about making opportunities for people and getting to know them a little bit and so forth. And again, this has nothing to do with her in particular, but I think we could go out again for some more people that might be interested. Now, Ms. Idelson may be the one we pick. I'm not, couching it in any other terms, unless someone in council feels different. I can look in your eyes. Go ahead, please. Whoever
Mayor, before y'all deliberate, we do have a card on this item, and if you want to
call the card, please.
Stan Johnston. Mr. Johnston.
Yes.
Your name has been called, sir.
I have a handout.
This is for the Planning and Zoning Board, sir.
Yes. Yes, it is.
That sign is inappropriate.
Pardon?
That sign is inappropriate.
I believe it is.
Yeah, I thought you would. I don't, but go ahead.
So, yeah, I have a handout also.
No.
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsett Avenue.
You realize
That
you've
was-
already given those out this evening.
Pardon?
You realize you've already given those out this
Well,
evening?
that was for last meeting. Same thing.
Same
Same
material.
thing. So I'm
We
making
already
sure
have
that it's on record for both meetings.
Sorry.
Okay, that's all. on that. So Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsett Avenue. I have a request for being on the P&Z meeting, and like I did last time, they had a request is that I asked for Mr. Jordan and Mr. Johnson not to vote on that because of extreme prejudice towards me. And that extreme prejudice was also expressed at the last meeting when I spoke under petitions and requests. And this is the same issue. In other words, is that the last meeting is that I was certainly the issue has to be about that I wrote a number of correspondences, hundreds of pages of correspondence that were reviewed by engineering organization, unnamed, and yet and they came up with the conclusion that just about everything I wrote was wrong. Just a few minutes ago, you explained that somehow that I was given a report. Well, there's no name for the report. I know it was a report that I was suggested to read, and that was done by Geosyntec and Gemini Engineering, and that was on a letter of map revision. It was ended in 2016. Notice that this is 2012 to 2019. You don't have a time machine to do that. So there is no report. There is no $70,000 spent on a contract for the work being done that was explained by you, and so there's deception that Mr. Jordan is also supporting on this. And also, if you watch the YouTube, you'll see that Jolynn Nelson, she's just nodding her head like this towards Sarah Stokel, in agreement, saying, hey, this guy, Stan Johnson, is not a good engineer at all. So these are, so anybody who is supporting our mayor, city manager on this, and Mr. Jordan, I believe I just can say is they're very dishonest, and it's not truthful at all. And anybody who promotes it is a liar also. And I'd like to see anybody here provide that report, give names of these engineers, show me the contract. I can't do it. But yet the public is still at bay listening to this from Mayor Johnson saying, hey, we gave it to him. Well, it's not true. And so it's almost a year now, and it's still going the same way. So what do we do? What do we do? We have a problem.
Your time is up, sir.
May I have more time? May I have 3 more minutes?
I see no one wishing to
Okay.
do that.
Thank you.
Member Stokel, I see your light on. Was that for this?
Yeah, for this item.
For this item? Can I just make one statement before? Just for your edification, sir, that evening I mentioned the contract. I said approximately $70,000, and I think that one was a few $1,000s less. But that is the one I was talking about, and I've told you that several times, but you just decide what you want to believe. So, Member Stokel, if you wish to speak.
I was going to say I'm kind of in agreement with where I think you were going with this item. I don't know about you guys, but when I had my one-on-one meeting, I was kind of surprised we had 4 openings for this particular board. And I think that we've seen, especially throughout this past year, the importance of this board and making sure that we have people on there that are doing what we feel is a good job on that board. So I would like to table this. I feel comfortable with Mr. Bobbitt, Ms. Spidell. I think they've done a great job on the board, but I'd like to get some more applicants. I was just kind of blindsided with knowing that we had this opening already, and I'd like to see if we can get some more applicants in there.
Thank you. Excuse me. Member Jordan.
No, I just canceled because Sarah stole my thunder.
Oh. Member Nelson.
I tend to agree. I do have a question, Mr. Brim. Is this going to cause a problem in terms of quorums?
We do have alternates. Ms. Einson is an alternate. I believe that I could defer to the clerk. I believe they would still have enough members to constitute a quorum for the next meeting.
Okay.
But I do not represent that board. But some understanding, you would have Mr. Bobbitt, Ms. Fidel, Mr. Severs, Mr. Richardson, Ms. Idenson, and I'm just not sure of the others, but that would be 5 members.
Okay.
Ms. Pisaka may be able to speak
Ms.
to it better. I don't know.
Ms. Idenson's here, and she's been here,
Yes,
I think, every week, every other week. And so I would ask that she not be asked to be present at the next meeting.
if she's not.
That's strictly up to her. I mean, she's welcome to come. And again, this has nothing to do with you. You just happen to be the newest alternate, and you may be picked. I don't know. So we'll see. But in either case, you will still have some position on that board, certainly. Okay?
Would you?
Yes.
Thank you. I was sworn in as an alternate last week for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then I was called by the city clerk's office to ask if I wanted to be a permanent on a regular full-time position, or I'm sure what you call it.
Regular.
To which I agreed, and to which she said, "Then you should come tonight and make your wishes known." So
Yes,
that's what
ma'am.
I'm doing.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Have
No,
more?
go ahead.
No, it's just that standard procedure to ask the alternates if they wish, and then she doesn't make any of the decisions. They're made here, so
Right.
she invited you to come, which is a natural thing and normal thing. If you would like to make some other statement, I mean, that's fine. We'll give you the time to do that.
Yeah.
But we know you have a good application.
Right.
But as we said at that time, we have been lax in allowing enough people to come in so that we could make a broader choice. I mean, and it has nothing to do with, like I said, it may be you're the best person for the job, but you did just start. Had you been on there for a year and we could see more about you, I'm sure it would have been a different situation. So I hope you're not.
No, I just want to make sure I understand, because I was voted in as an alternate, and then I was called by the clerk's office.
Because a position came open.
Yes, because a position came open.
And you would be the first person we would tell about it.
And they asked if I would like that position.
Yeah.
And I said yes.
Some people say they don't want it.
Oh, okay.
So they ask, yes, but she doesn't make a decision. She says, okay, come to this meeting, talk to council.
Okay.
Okay?
Is there any other information you need to know about me?
I think, we had a couple of meetings where we had people apply that we knew nothing about. And so we asked our clerk to please have the people come in because we did want to make decisions without
Of course.
seeing them, talking to them, et cetera. And you've been here, and I think we've had a chance to see you and talk to you and know what you're about. So I wouldn't come back. Okay. Can I say
I'm
that?
hoping she means to the next meeting because.
To the
other
next
people-
meeting.
If you wish to be here, you are welcome.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, so I'm still an alternate, though, correct?
Oh, yes, ma'am. And you may indeed be the.
That's
next
all I
person.
wanted to know.
And
I was getting a little confused. But,
we want you to come
No,
back, but not
it's just
necessarily,
Okay.
Right, you still have the floor. Go ahead.
not necessarily to a meeting, our
Okay.
meeting. You have to come to planning and zoning instead.
Yes, which I did last week. So,
Thank you.
okay. Thank you.
Wait, don't
Thank
leave.
you, ma'am.
Yeah,
Oops.
Dan.
Yeah, I got a button down too. Because I want to clarify as well. Just first of all, thank you for being here again.
You're welcome.
And I'm serious about that. And I think we all feel that way. Thank you for being here again. But she is the person who will attend the meetings now as the alternate. So she's going to go to the meetings and go forward. Okay, and then we will decide who the permanent will be.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I need to say. Nothing
Yeah,
else.
that's another point you just made. If you are chosen, then we still have to look for an alternate. So here we're kind of combining it and seeing how it works out. But if we do choose somebody else as the alternate, then we don't have to go out again and find somebody else. So,
Okay.
thank you, ma'am.
That's-
Anybody else? I see no.
That's clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item.
I believe you want to make a motion to table
Oh, yes, I'm
the
sorry.
two regular members to a next council meeting?
We've moved to table this item until the next city council meeting.
Ma'am, you actually voted on two of the members to be appointed, which were Mr. Bobbitt and Mr. Spidell. So you're not tabling the entire item, you're just tabling a portion of it.
We're tabling the portion for the rest of the members. Does that work?
Second holds.
I'm not sure what the motion was at this point. Does that cover both situations?
Sorry, what I think the motion would be to table the two remaining seats that are open as a regular member.
That's your motion?
That's it.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Next item is the Community Service Award.
Yes, sir. Mayor Johnson has appointed Els Van Eckenberg as chair and Mr. David Price of Great Outdoors Community Church as clergy representative for the Titusville Community Service Award Selection Committee. City Council is being requested to confirm their appointments, and we do have a card on this item.
Just for the record, it's Els Van Engelenberg, so I don't get yelled at. He doesn't know Els, does he?
Yes, I do.
Oh, do Okay. I'm sorry? Oh, I knew there was something there. We have a card. Please come up.
Stan
Call the
Johnston.
card, please.
Stan Johnston.
Name and address for the record, please.
Stan Johnston, registered professional engineer, 860 Poinsett Avenue, Titusville, Florida. I've come to speak for this resolution. I want to especially mention the Van Englenbergs for their community service and philanthropic work that they've done for an organization that I was with, and that was Titusville Sourced Poland, which was also been combined Polish Relief, and also for the help they've given to the members of that from Holland. So I thank for that. And this is the resolution mentions what a man does for himself or a woman does for herself dies with him, and what they do for their community lives forever. So it's a community service award. And certainly, she has been in community service, and the family has been that way. So I want to mention that also when we talk about service, we can all talk about the other thing is disservice. And so sometimes we have some honorable people that go the wrong way. They've just they just went the wrong way, and we have an example of that. And just that you saw, in which I'm asking for some truth, some justice, some honesty in regards to this issue right here, this fraud issue, and it is recorded in public documents and so forth. And for example, if I contacted, there is no in this report that Mayor Johnson said my name is not mentioned anywhere in the report. None of my correspondence is mentioned anywhere in the report. Nothing. So, and it was done in 2016. You don't have a time machine. So what I'm saying is Mayor Johnson is being totally dishonest on this. And those who support him are also being dishonest.
Excuse me. Point of order.
Yes,
we are
ma'am.
discussing whether these people, their appointments should be confirmed. Period. This is not relevant.
Okay, may I have the time that she's taken away from me?
No. Well, that's
I make
mayor's
that
decision, but my suggestion would be no. You've been told over and over again that we're discussing things that are relevant, and you continue to discuss things that are not relevant. So why should we give you time to discuss things that are relevant and time to discuss things that aren't relevant.
So why don't you talk to me sometime? Why don't you return my calls?
Why don't you
Why don't
quit
you return my
recording?
calls? Why don't you answer my emails?
That's
Okay.
beyond it.
No, I want my time back because
Give him
I didn't
1
get to
minute
finish.
additional from this point.
Thank you. Okay, I do approve this measure, and I think it's important for us to see what is going on in our community, whether it's recognizing justice and honor and so forth like that. And that's what you've chosen to find people to do that. I don't know that much about the pastor, but I've been to his church numerous times. So, but in this case, we have selected, I believe you had selected 2 people, good people, and that they should be selected. But you also should consider what the heck's going on in our community, especially at the top end of our city manager and those who are the politicians who have been elected for this office who don't return calls and other things, and don't respond to emails, and don't keep their promises. So we have a problem here. This is a big problem, and someday maybe you'll deal with it. But it's I would hope that you'd have a conscience about this. Thank you. May I have 2 more minutes?
I see no motion. Next item, sir.
I think you
No
need to
petitions and
confirm.
requests.
No, sir, you'll need to confirm. The council will need to confirm the 2.
Oh, okay. Member Jordan.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we allow you to appoint, where are they? Els and Dr. David Price.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Next item, sir.
It's petitions and requests from the public present, non-agenda items.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to tell you, it was very disturbing to me to hear this time and time and time again, and I'm sure it is to the rest of you, but to me at this point it's very personal in nature, so it's just a shame our time gets wasted like that. All of our time, including our audience time, gets wasted like that. Anybody else from that wish to speak under petitions and requests? I did say anybody else, but I guess that didn't hear. Doesn't affect them. Another handout.
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. The handout that I've given you this has 3 circles on it. This is part of a map that I sent you. That's a copy of the map out there in the corner. It's a 3-foot by 6-foot map that you can enlarge it to that size, 3-foot by 6-foot. Those 3 circles represent large culverts, some of them 2 box culverts, under I-95. The water flowing through those culverts is severely restricted. I've been out there a number of times, including during the Hurricane Matthew. This is what Mr. Jordan should pay a particular attention to, because I asked him the question, where does the water go? Where does the water go when you have severe restrictions? For his failure to answer these questions and his supporting of the idea that we do not have to clean these canals, I've asked him to submit his resignation, and also for this other issue too, for his promotion and supporting the fraud. Now, this fraud that we just spoke about is still on the table, and if I know contacting Geosyntec and Gemini, I would ask them for information, an agreement with what Mayor Johnson said, so that I could, and information so that I could report them to the board. They've never contacted me anything about correspondence. So what you're saying still is Mr. Johnson and Mr. Larice is there's no
Mayor Johnson, sir, if you will.
Oh, Mayor Johnson. I said Mr. Johnson, I think. I'm sorry.
You're Mr. Johnston. I'm Mayor.
Oh, Mayor Johnson. Okay. I'm sorry if that did dishonor to you, but in this case is that you're involved heavily in fraud, and there is no contract, there is no report. Covers 2012 to 2019, and it's all recorded in ORB 8506, page 1374, or you can watch it on YouTube. YouTube, beginning February the 12th, 2019. So it's all available. I'm not hiding anything, but it's ugly, dirty lies. And so if you want to go ahead and insist on doing it, that's what you're doing. It's been almost a year now, and you still promote it. So this is a dirty, rotten politicking. Might makes right. The end justifies the means. That's what we have here in city government, City of Titusville. So I want you to consider that, is that organized crime, drug dealers and addicts, corrupt politicians, and the City of Titusville, our top leaders in our government, City of Titusville, have many things in common.
Your time is up, sir.
May I have 3 more minutes?
I see no motion.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on to petitions and requests? If not, we'll go to consent agenda.
Yes, sir, and council, we do have 2 cards for consent that will pull consent agenda items 8D and 8G. Does any member of council wish to pull any other items? Okay, with your permission, I'll read for the record, and then we'll take these 2 items separately. Consent agenda item 8A, approve the FY20 preferred rate agreement for Enterprise Leasing Company of Orlando in a monthly amount of $670 per vehicle for the Titusville Police Department operations, not to exceed $40,200. Consent agenda item 8B, approve the award of bid 20B010, purchase of various vehicles to purchase the budgeted vehicle replacements in the amount of $227,729, and approve the replacement of facilities vehicle in the amount of $23,778 from Ron Norris Ford of Titusville, Florida, in the amount of $251,507 for the purchase of 7 vehicles. Approve the purchase of budgeted vehicle replacement from Beck Auto Sales of Palatka, Florida, in the amount of $54,448. Additionally, approve the associated budget amendments transferring additional funds from various capital outlay projects for this purchase. Consent agenda item 8C, approve the mayor's signing of the Arbor Day proclamation. Consent agenda item 8D, approve the award of 2 agreements for investment services from PFM Asset Management LLC and the financial advisory services of PFM Financial Advisors LLC by piggybacking their respective agreements with Brevard County, and authorize the city manager to execute both agreements. Consent agenda item 8E, approve the use of Sorwell contract, formerly NJPA, subject to resolution of contract terms by the city attorney and city manager, to Chevin Fleet Services LLC for a 5-year term in the amount of $130,915 for the purchase and implementation of new fleet management software, and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. Additionally, approve the associated budget amendments transferring funds to the capital outlay project for this purchase. Consent agenda item 8F, authorize the city manager and the police chief to sign Brevard 911 Public Safety Answering Point PSAP interlocal agreement. Consent agenda item 8G, approve advisability to amend the code relating to height in the DMU Uptown Subdistrict. And again, items D and G have been pulled with the card.
Okay. You want to vote on these, or do you want to deal with the 2 that are left, city manager? Sometimes. You want to vote on?
Sir, that's up to you.
Well, sometimes you do it the other way. I don't know.
Yes, sir, either way.
Okay. What would you like to do? Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve items 8A, 8B, 8C, 8E, and 8F.
I think 8B was one that was pulled, was it?
No, D was.
D as in Delta,
D was.
and G as in Golf.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Those items pass unanimously. On to the items that were pulled.
This is item 8D, and we have a card for it, and we also have representatives here from PFM Asset Management.
Okay. I guess we should hear the card first.
Stan Johnston.
No. What a surprise.
Look at you, look.
Sit down, Stan. We'll do it. Call the people that are. Stan, are you Stan?
Yes, sir, he is the card.
Okay. You said the people first. You go ahead. Go ahead. Do it. Come on. I don't want to spend any more time on this. Come on.
Oh, okay. You're not going to call them. Okay. Well, they'll be interested in hearing what I have to say.
Start the clock, please. Thank you.
Pardon?
I'll talk.
Okay, Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsett Avenue. This is an important issue, that how the city is doing. And I especially want to bring your attention to what happened in February 2018. It's a continuation of a discussion of an issue that was in 2017. And that had to do with retirement benefits. And at that time is that there was a meeting in January that mentioned about falling off of a cliff. Our financial situation, the city of Titusville, was described as, by the mayor, as falling off of a cliff. Those are pretty strong terms. And I haven't heard any report from your agency about this. I haven't heard a report also from, I believe his name is Bridget, about falling off a cliff, although she was there at the meeting. So what we did is we had another meeting, in which, and that was in February 2018, I believe it was, and Mayor Johnson was, no, I'm not sure you're mayor then. Well, anyhow, yeah, I believe Mayor Johnson, not Mr. Johnson, said that he was trying to pull Rule 13, which would make a reconsideration of the voting that was done on that issue. And in this meeting, it was 27 minutes. It was a meeting, end of the meeting, and it's on YouTube. It's 27 minutes talking about this particular issue, falling off a cliff. But also the word was mentioned. Exactly, bankruptcy. So bankruptcy was mentioned, and yet we don't have a report from Bridget or anyone else regarding. So the issue was trying to get Rule 13 to in other words, would damage the retirees more, and to do it on the basis of bankruptcy. So I want them to know, and I'm also for you being in this. So I'm for the issue, and I hope that you can speak too. So I appreciate you allowing the Constitution that allows me to criticize my government, and this is a criticism. If you don't see it that way, but using which I don't know how in the world it came to the point of talking about falling off the cliff and bankruptcy to our city. And I think people should know about this. Nothing's in the paper about it. Maybe there was if I missed it. So I would like you all to consider this.
Your time is up, sir.
May I have another minute?
You see no motion.
Thank you.
Just for your edification, not discussion, we had a projected report which showed some hard times ahead. This was, I guess, at the beginning of the Great Recession. And they could have been catastrophic. However, we met the council and in public and worked over the issue. I guess someone missed that meeting, or meetings, really, to where we pulled it together, tightened our belts where we needed to, and avoided any kind of bad situation coming to be. And that was due to a council all getting together at a meeting and saying, well, let's figure this out with our staff, with our very capable staff, by the way, both the city manager and our auditor. So I hope that explains it to anyone who missed that part of the meeting, but I really wonder. So with that, I have no lights up there.
Yes, sir. We do have PFM representatives. Should council have any questions of that organization, they are present.
Okay, council, anybody wish to speak? Okay, yes, sir, you're up.
If you could come up, please. I simply want you guys to have the opportunity to clarify.
If I may, just protocol, please.
Yeah, thank you.
Give your name.
Sure. My name is Stephen Alexander, Managing Director of PFM.
And you, sir?
And my name is Scott Stitcher. I'm a director at PFM Asset Management.
Pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you.
All right, just to put it in perspective, I work for Brevard Public Schools.
Yes.
And received an email from the superintendent with some concerns.
Yes.
I don't even know if it's concerns, just some explanation and clarification.
Sure.
And in reality, I don't want to use the word concern with you. I simply would think it'd be wise of all of us if we got a clarification of some of the concerns that were explained to us by the with the investments for Brevard Public Schools.
Sure.
So if you could clarify for us, that would be great.
Sure, my pleasure. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do that. As your investment advisor, we've been through, as you said, through the credit crisis and all the other financial situations that we've been through over the years, and we have made sure the city has sailed through all that. This is a situation where the articles have reflected on bank situations that occurred about 10, 12 years ago in some cases. So this is very, very old financial news that has been dug up and brought into the forefront in today's news. During those times, during the credit crisis, obviously we've looked through those situations. And there were some bad situations caused by some of these banks, and they've been rectified. They've been restitution paid. People have gone to jail. People have done agreements with the federal government to make corrections. All these situations have been worked out through. The credit ratings are very solid in today's market. These are some of the biggest banks in the world that we've been buying investments from. They're purchased by all the mutual funds and money market funds around the world. In current times, we're very satisfied with these organizations. They have made a lot of changes, and we're very comfortable with the securities we buy. In your portfolio, each of these securities are less than 1% of the entire portfolio. We do that on purpose to make sure we have great diversification among the corporate holdings. It helps minimize the risk and therefore keeps the portfolio in very good sitting. But yes, a lot of this information is a long time ago that is being used today. I think it somewhat misrepresents the current positions of these banks. None of these banks are on any type of federal government terrorist watch lists or any of that sort. The credit ratings are still solid and remain so. And if there is any financial problems that we're concerned about, we'll be the first people to alert the city about it.
Well, I appreciate that clarification. I just thought I would be remiss, having received that information, an email from the school board and the superintendent, if I didn't at least, when I had my meeting with city manager, we went over this. Obviously, I thought it'd be good if we could get clarification. I also want to say in the email it was doing a lot of clarifying too, that the concerns were dated, and there was no wrongdoing in anybody's situation that we're dealing with. Correct. But like I said, I just want to get that out there and have an opportunity to.
And we appreciate it. We feel that's part of our fiduciary responsibility to come here and have the discussion with you. So we appreciate the opportunity to have that clarification. And the last I heard just a few hours ago that the school board is not making any changes to any of their investments as well.
Very good. Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen, and we've been with you for a fairly long time, and you brought us through some tight situations and made the best of the good situation, so I can tell you we appreciate that very
Thank you,
much,
sir.
and thank you for
Thank you,
coming.
Mayor.
And especially our, what's your official title? I'm sorry.
Director of Finance.
She does a great job.
Yes,
She really
it's a
does.
pleasure to work with her.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Are there-
thank
are
you.
there any
Thank
other
you, sir.
questions? Last item.
We have one remaining card. It's item G.
Stan Johnston.
Mr. Johnson, can you move it along a little bit? We're all waiting breathlessly.
I'm speaking against this item. I thought the procedure was, maybe I'm wrong, I'm asking for a procedural question on this, which is part of my time, that I thought people who were speaking for the item go before the people who are speaking against the item. Am I wrong on that?
That's under quasi judicial.
Oh, that's quasi, so it isn't, okay, it's quasi judicial. All right, so it doesn't apply on this one. I'm speaking against this item. There's a lot of people in the community who do not want the city of Titusville to turn into a little Miami. I'm serious. So what this is saying, let me read this to you from the
Sir, is
agenda
that
item.
germane to what we're talking about at all?
Beg your pardon?
Is that germane to what we're talking
Absolutely. My goodness, what we're talking about is change, going from, this is 8G,
about? Yes
isn't
or
it?
no? I'm not asking for a discussion.
Absolutely.
Continue.
Little Miami. In other words, what we're doing is we're going to avoiding a restriction for uptown Titusville, going from 5 stories to 10 stories. 10 stories. That's what we're voting on tonight. 10 stories. And let me get a description on the uptown area. The general character is described as a continuous street wall. Now, if that's not Miami, what is it? 10 stories, a continuous street wall. What would the voters of Titusville think of that? Are you guys nuts? I don't know hardly anybody who in voters in the city of Titusville would tolerate that stuff. So you can do what you want to, but I know very few people who want this 10-story buildings now. You're going to stick in the downtown Titusville. I think that it's almost railroading it because the public really doesn't know that this is happening. They don't know it. I didn't know about it until I read the agenda packet today. But then we're going to have what's called and it says it on there, continuous street wall. 5 stories to 10 stories. Downtown Titusville. I don't know if you really thought about this. This is a change. See, the city of Titusville, when I came down here, it was a special community. Fact is, it was a community that had the highest per capita income in the United States. It was a city. And it was a low-rise. It was especially known as it was a low-rise. It was a boom town. And people like the low-rise. I talked to many people, say it's like the low-rise. Now, what are you going to do with the traffic? Fact is, you still don't have a plan for potable water to meet these demands that are the future of the city of Titusville. They don't have them. You only got about 6,000 gallons per day.
Your time is up,
May I have
sir.
2 more minutes?
I see no motion.
Thank you.
And just for a clarification,
Yes, sir,
Council and Mayor,
please.
this is an advisability to take a look at this.
Would you also tell the area it is, because I don't think that...
Yeah,
that
it's
was explained.
Old Apple across from the marina, and
It's not
actually goes over from the
waterfront,
marina.
it's not
That's correct, sir.
any area that's, in fact, it backs up to the railroad track.
Yep.
Is that correct? So it's a very specific area that we hope will get redeveloped in some form. Okay, we need a motion on that item?
2 items.
Oh, do
You
we
need
go-
8D and 8G.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh,
right.
I thought about this over the weekend, and I think my problem is I have a vision sort of in my head where we do have some larger buildings on the north and the south end of town, but my idea has always been that center of town, the old part of town, is going to be a lower height. And I think, to me, there's a difference between what we're talking about doing in the Big Apple and what we talked about for the hotel next to Kennedy Point. We put the hotel next to Kennedy Point, and Kennedy Point is, 8-10 stories? It's a fairly high building, so
I'm not sure.
I'm sure somebody out there knows, but it's fairly in line with that area, the other items in that area, the other buildings. But here we have the Big Apple. You got the railroad tracks, and right on the other side of the railroad tracks are some really low buildings. So I would really hate to see us say 10 stories is appropriate. I might be willing to go up some, but 10 stories just seems very high. So that's my thought.
Member Jordan?
I was going to make the motion. Is there any more discussion?
Member Diesel? Yeah, I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Diesel.
I'm good. I guess the word there that doesn't have me so concerned is it's an advisability. I'd like to see what they're thinking. I don't know that I want to go 10 either. I don't know that I want to go 8, but I'd like to see their advisability. I also, I don't want to say have the concern, but as the advisability will help me understand. But when we do go high, we increase traffic more than if we went low. And so for every floor we go, we increase traffic, we increase infrastructure. That's a discussion I'll want to enter once we get the advisability.
I think you make a very good point. It is an advisability, and that's where we usually come down to where the rubber meets the road, as they say. So with that, Member Jordan?
All right. I'd like to move consent agenda items 8D and 8G.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I guess we need to, are they call for a roll call vote on that? I can't remember which ones
No.
they are. Okay. All right, no roll call vote. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Next item.
Next item is item 9A, which is under second readings, public hearings, and related action. This is ordinance number 1, 2020, Code Enforcement Procedures. An ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida regarding code enforcement procedures, amending Chapter 31, Article 5, Code Enforcement Board by adding new sections 3166, Code References to Special Magistrate or Code Enforcement Board, and 3169 to Special Magistrate, and by amending and renumbering existing sections 3166 through 3168 to provide for a special magistrate code enforcement process, adopting conforming amendments, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, incorporation into the code, and an effective date.
At the January 14th, 2020 regular City Council meeting, the Council conducted the first reading of Ordinance 1-2020 regarding code enforcement procedures, scheduling the second hearing for tonight. At the November 12, 2019 regular Council meeting, Code Enforcement Department provided a report of advisability regarding a special magistrate versus a municipal code enforcement board. The City Council accepted the report and directed staff to provide an ordinance to change the municipal code board to a special magistrate. And what we're actually doing is giving you the ability to have a code enforcement board or a magistrate. And this is your second reading, will require a vote and public hearing of Ordinance 1-2020.
Evening, sir. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Thank you.
Good. Do you have any comments you'd like to make before council asks some questions?
No, sir. We think we've provided all the data, and we look forward to the council's direction.
Council, anyone have questions on this item? Okay. Clerk, are there cards on this item?
We have one card. It's Mr. Johnston.
Stan Johnston, professional engineer, 860 Poinsett Avenue, Titusville, Florida. I'm against having a special magistrate. I know for many years Mike Cunningham was the presiding officer of our Code Enforcement Board, and he did a fantastic job. It was a lot of work for him. But the question is fairness and the possibility of fraud. When you put it into one person's position to do it rather than a number of citizens, you're opening a can of worms to that how do you call it? It encourages someone to do something they shouldn't do, to be influenced in a way that they shouldn't be. So to take it away from the public and put it into one person, although you say, hey, it's a representative, a special magistrate, to put it into one person or two people or something like that is not the way to do it, to pay somebody to do it. I would like it to remain the same way, to have a code enforcement board by volunteers from the city. I believe that's the best way to have justice and, justice on it. That's what we need to have. It's not a good way to do it. And I brought this board because you can see what's happened right here, even on our own council. Just a simple thing like water flows downhill. We can't get honesty out of the council that way. Cleaning our floodways. Can't get it. It's a violation. I mean, the city of Titusville makes many violations. I mean, they violate the Constitution by flooding property with dams and then creating wetlands from blocked drainage canals. So we've got serious problems in our council. I think that there's no question in my mind being a special magistrate is the wrong way to do it. So I'd like you to consider that and don't get a special magistrate. Thank you.
Okay. Is there an?
You'll need a vote on this, sir?
There's no. I'm looking for an applicant. There is an applicant.
No, sir.
Yes. Okay. Anybody like to make? There you go.
There you go. Nelson. I would move to approve ordinance number 1-2020, the code enforcement procedures.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Next item, please.
Next item is item B, which is ordinance number 46.
Excuse me, 1 second. We have to.
Mr. Broom, before you get started there, I think it would probably be important right now to give staff direction to go out and look for a special magistrate. Code Enforcement Board seems to be having problems keeping people on the board and getting applicants. And so I think at this point it might be good to go ahead and start looking for a special magistrate. I had one of the members come to me and indicated that they planned on resigning. So we're going to have more openings. So at this time, and it may take several months, I assume it's going to take several months to go out and interview people. So at this point, I would ask that we consider giving staff direction to start that process.
I think that's a very good suggestion. I do want to just make so everybody knows it will be a practicing attorney, not somebody off the street that may have other problems, as somebody tried to point out. Correct?
Correct. And we've been operating with special magistrates and hearing officers for, the last 30 years. It seems like we've had some very, very good magistrates. But given the problem with the board, this would be a good direction. And I think it would also be good if we had somebody from the Code Enforcement Board on that committee to to interview the new applicants and provide their input.
Is that a motion, or would you like to?
That could be a motion.
That could be a motion.
That could be a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please, clerk.
Oh, we did a roll call for the ordinance. Do you want to do a roll call for this one as well?
I'm sorry.
We had a roll call for the ordinance. Would you like to do?
No, I guess it doesn't need one for this. It's just part of an ordinance. Okay. All right. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign, passes unanimously. Next item, what that is.
Next item is 9B, Ordinance 46, 2019. An ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending Chapter 29, Special Districts and Overlays of the Code of Ordinances, Section 2971, Intent, and Chapter 34, Procedures, Section 3455, Master Plan Submittal, to include the requirement for a formal wetlands determination that is valid at the time of submittal to the city, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, for an effective date, and for incorporation into the code.
Based on a request of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Council approved advisability to amend the code to require wetland surveys be consistent with the St. John's Water Management District standards. A copy of the information describing the formal wetlands determination overview prepared by St. John's is attached in your packet. Last paragraph on page 2 states that a formal wetland determination is a binding document that stays with the property and is valid for 5 years. Property owners may seek to have certification reissued prior to the determination's expiration date, which is reissued if the criteria are met under Florida law. The proposed changes to the Code and Development Review Procedures Manual requires a wetland determination approved by St. John's Water Management District valid at the time of the submittal and is required to determine the boundaries of the wetland, the surface waters, ponds, canals, and ditches. The accompanying resolution will be considered by City Council as new business, and the item is meeting today, and the TEC has recommended approval of the ordinance 7-0 at the regular meeting on January 15, 2020. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this ordinance on January 22, 2020, recommending approval 7-0. The motion also recommended that City Council consider amending the technical manuals to include rezoning requests, planning, development requests, and conditional use requests, which is under 12A under new business. And Ms. Busaka is available to answer any questions that you may have. And this is your public hearing for Ordinance 46, 2019.
Ms. Busaka, any comments?
Only if you have questions.
I see no questions.
A couple of us, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm getting to that point. You didn't want to do that. Okay. Vice Mayor, please.
I don't really have any questions. I just want to say something that was said in the first meeting by a citizen. Thank you, Ms. Busaka. The things that we've thrown at you in bulk has been immense. But I also have to say that I think it's been very important. I say sometimes when we're in the middle of the tree meetings or wetland meetings that I really do. I hope we are. I think that we probably talk more about trees and wetlands than any other council in the state. I don't know that because I haven't seen any other councils, but I will tell you that we do it a lot. And maybe it hasn't been done in the past a lot. I don't know. But I do know that we care about it. And I think our last meeting showed that. I think that we're on the same page with planning and zoning and TEC. But without you and your staff driving this thing, we wouldn't be on the same page, and we wouldn't even know what page we're on. So I just can't help but say I'm so pleased that the citizen, I'm not sure she's on TEC who said that, but anyway, made a big thank you to you, and I would say that from me and whoever else up here. I don't want to speak for anybody, but wow, thank you for all you've done. And Council, I'm kind of excited that we are doing the things we're doing environmentally and with trees and the wetlands. So I just wanted to toss that out there as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass the thanks along to the staff who does the real work.
You always say that, but something tells me when you get out of here at midnight, you're...
Well said, sir, and I'm sure every one of us agrees with that. And from certainly, as the Vice Mayor said, thank you very much, Mr. Saka. All right, we need a motion.
We do have a card as well, sir.
I was afraid of that. Call the cards.
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. This can also relate to that handout that I gave you, had the 3 circles on it. At the bottom here, notice it says, "City is unable to find a professional engineer to dispute my findings of facts." That includes these alleged engineers that are in this report, that no one has contacted me about my correspondence. So in other words, the city, with all its millions of dollars, just this month, they approved over $1 million for 18 septic tanks to be put on some kind of a exotic system that may require numerous pumps or whatever but that's over $1 million. But they can't spend $1,000 or a few $1,000s to get an engineer to dispute my findings. And here's what my findings are on this wetland survey: is that your city manager and all of you council members here are breaking the law, the Constitution of the United States, which says you cannot take property without due process of law. So what you've done, and I've sent you signed and sealed information that indeed we have dams that flood property that increase wetlands. So what you're doing is your oath. When you took the oath of office, it said that you would support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida. We're not doing it. You're breaking the law. Big time. In other words, these dams flood people's property, increase wetlands. Not only does it do that, but when I put those circles there, when you have restrictions in your canals that lead to the St. Johns River outside of the city limits, public works can't maintain those. It says in the Stormwater Master Plan, which you are violating severely, is that those they're supposed to maintain. It's supposed to be maintained. It's not. Hadn't been for 40 years at least. So you guys are in trouble, and this wetland survey is a problem. You should, on your wetland survey, you should show what the Stormwater Master Plan shows, and you should show all ditches that go through properties, and including the wetlands. It's required by minimum technical standards. The city has not been enforcing that standard. It's a standard for surveyors to do. I've been a registered surveyor since, I think it's 81. You're breaking the law. I don't know what it'll take, but there's affidavits that I have recorded, affidavit of fraud, and an affidavit of gross negligence, and I have them shown on this chart here. So, and also shows Amendment Number 14. That's due process of law. So you need to look into these issues before even doing this wetland survey. So I'm asking you to do that. May I have a couple more minutes?
Well, I see no motions. What item are you speaking on, sir? Because I'm a little confused.
Wetland surveys.
Wetland surveys?
Yeah, absolutely.
You spoke to St. John's on the you spoke in the past to St. John's, have you not, about these items?
Not about all these items, but
I'm
on
sorry?
some items. But on some items, yes, I have. I've sent a signed sealed information to you, and you haven't responded, and the city, and they haven't responded.
And St. John's?
St. John's hasn't responded either.
Well, that's not what I heard. But at any rate, you said we didn't have anybody who disputed it.
Yeah, do you? Give me one. Name them.
Well, by not answering you, and I think they did answer you, but that is,
name them so I can report them to the board.
Those are engineers, sir. I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay, St. John's did write a letter about.
I'm not arguing with you. Take your seat, please.
Exactly. I'll do that. I'll rush to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Where are we now? Wait, wait a minute. Okay.
I'm going to move to approve.
We need a motion. Go ahead.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 46-2019 relating to wetland surveys.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Diesel?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Jordan?
Yes.
Thank you, one and all. Passes unanimously. Next item, please.
Yes, sir. We're on 9C, conditional use permit application 7-2019. Let's roll Space Coast. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow indoor family-friendly roller skating rink within the existing unit of a commercial strip center, St. John's Plaza, located at 3265 Garden Street, Unit 102. 5 birthday-themed party rooms, a snack bar, kids' games, and a dessert room are all proposed within the same unit to be complemented with a roller skating rink. The subject unit is part of the building that Publix previously occupied prior to the construction of the current Publix in 2010. The property is zoned regional commercial, RC, with future land use designation of commercial high density. The applicant is proposing to occupy 17,685 square feet, which, according to the conceptual site plan provided by the applicant, forms the entity of Unit 102. No expansion of existing building is proposed. The applicant proposes to utilize existing parking and ingress-egress points for vehicular access to the property. Staff recommends approval with the 4 conditions that are in your packet. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered the request on January 22nd, 2020, and recommended approval of staff's recommendation 7-0.
Ms. Pusaka.
I just wanted to comment that the staff has analyzed this against the conditions that are required in a conditional use permit. They did not find it likely that a roller skating rink would cause nuisance issues related to traffic lights, odor, smoke, or electrical interference. And there is one condition related to noise in this. The city engineer has indicated that there should not be a parking issue or traffic issue because of the fact that this is already in a strip center, and that kind of impact has been considered when the strip center was originally put down. There is a condition that relates to, in the event that the gross floor area should be greater than 30,207 square feet, which is a percentage of the current building, that there may be, that this should be limited to that because of the additional impacts that may occur, but that's substantially more than is requested by the applicant. And in addition to that, the other conditions are that the business hours shall be limited to the hours of 7 a.m. through 11 p.m., and that the conditional use permit shall not be construed to allow a club or lounge as an indoor recreational and commercial amusement use. And those uses are specifically shown in other portions of the code. We just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, any cards on this item?
We have just the applicant, Brantley Bostick.
If you'll come up, sir. Name and address for the record, please, sir.
Brantley Bostick, 2605 Columbia Boulevard in Titusville, Florida.
Great. First thing I would like to do is apologize to you and your group and others in the audience that we took so much of your time up this evening. Unfortunately, there's nothing that can be done.
We're thankful to be here. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You have any questions for this gentleman? Yes, we do. Vice Mayor.
Oh, I just want to say, for me, wow, this is great. When I first got word of this is awesome. It takes me back to, I don't know, some of y'all might be able to remember this, but the carousel on Highway 50, when I was a kid growing up, I still run into people, and you go to Reunion, carousel roller rink is talked about a lot. And to see this is exciting to me. And I can tell you, back in 16 when I ran for city council, that was something for the kids, and we talked about the old carousels, not there anymore. There was some talk about a putt-putt golf. I'm not sure there's many of those anywhere anymore, but this is exciting. This isn't just exciting because kids get to go skating. It's because I get to go watch my grandkids skate, not skate. So I'm excited about that. And if I could expand just a little bit, then I'll come back for another thank you. I was at River Lanes yesterday actually had a meeting with somebody, and I was sitting in the parking lot waiting for him, and I'm looking over at the old Kmart. Boom. Look how great. And then just a couple weeks ago, we were at the old Goodings. Boom. Now we have the old Publix. Boom. So sometimes we talk about development. Sometimes we talk about redevelopment and reuse. Very exciting. So I just want to end with thank you for thinking of this. Thank you for taking the opportunity to do this. I have no doubt this is going to be awesome, and people will be talking about this at their class reunions for years to come.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Member Jordan.
The distinguished gentleman to the left has stole my thunder again. Something's going on with these guys over here for sure, but very much appreciate what your vision is for sure. I do have a question for Ms. Busaka. Why are the hours 7 to 11? Sorry.
This was suggested because there are, first of all, I believe that it's okay with the applicant that those were the hours that he had proposed. But in addition to that, there is a residential neighborhood to the back. And so there was a concern that if there were a lot of activity in that area after 11 o'clock, it may impact the residential area. And that would be to the west.
So what happens if they go to 11:30?
Well, code enforcement would have to be called, and then if it were a noise issue, I believe that probably TPD would go out there and say, you have a noise issue. These people would say, we're sorry, and I have all belief that it would end and there would be no issue.
I guess the concern I have, and I go to bed early, but there's a lot of kids who don't, and 11 o'clock seems early for young people, especially on the weekends. And to me, when you're driving into Titusville from some event, I like to see some action. You know, I like the kids to have some place to be a safe place. And I just think your facility is going to be the number one place for kids to go. And I just don't want us to pigeon box you guys where you can't have more time than 11 o'clock. 7 to 11 just sounds like it's not enough time. I mean, I know you accept that, but I would suggest that we make the time maybe to midnight. Like Sarah's a young person, so she'll be there. So I think, midnight. I mean, because this was just a suggestion, right, from staff.
That's correct, yes,
okay,
sir.
So
there is no mandatory requirement for this.
Okay, so if there's no mandatory requirement, then why are we putting one on it? Besides, you're only worried about something that may happen. So you're trying to fix a problem that it's not a problem, correct?
It's the nature of zoning.
Yeah, yes. I understand that for sure. So, go ahead, sir.
No, you continue.
Okay, so my suggestion is that we expand those hours, if you will. And I think Member Stoker is good with 12 o'clock. 12 or 1 o'clock, to me, would be a modification to the approval that hopefully the council will give tonight. Thank you.
I think you make a good point there. Ms. Busaka, if they did choose to go to a later time and they had some issue, they don't have to stay open that late if they.
Oh no, sir. There's nothing mandatory about requiring that. And if there were a noise issue, it would be handled by TPD as any other noise issue is handled. Now, if you notice that there is a requirement here for sound amplification, because this is a conditional use permit, if there are violations repeatedly of any condition, including the sound amplification issue, then council could always bring this back and reconsider it. The code does allow for that to happen in the event that either
there are significant violations, which I would not anticipate, or that there's some changed conditions in the neighborhood that would cause you to want to do that.
Certainly the indication that they, or the fact that they were willing to take a lesser time indicates you don't want problems, do you?
No, sir.
So I would say it's reasonable to go to a later time, and then if you run into problems, you can just, if you find it workable, to just close a little earlier, and then you wouldn't have the problems. But Member Stokel?
Yep. Well, this time, Member Jordan stole my thunder. But no, I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for doing this for the community. I think we are all super supportive and appreciate you guys, especially with the youth and having things for them to do. And I appreciate if we can, make the midnight time change. Just thinking about River Lanes and how they have the blacklight bowling. If you guys wanted to potentially do something on a Friday or Saturday night to help your business, I want to see you guys thrive. So thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you, Council.
Member Nelson?
Well, I was just going to ask, what time does River Lanes close? Does anybody know?
I think it's midnight or 1. It would be one of the latest, but I want to say it's midnight.
Okay, so let's live, I can live with midnight.
Okay.
They also close at 11, yeah.
They close at 11. He knows.
And by the way, Sergeant Cruz is a roller skater. I don't know if you knew that, but he's really he's into roller skating, and can't
do
wait
you
for this
sing
to
while
be-
you roller skate? He's a singer also. Anything else, sir, that you want to say?
Hey, we're just really excited for the opportunity. My family is thankful to come to the city and bring it something for the kids. It's an opportunity that we saw, and we hope to be here for quite some time. So thank you.
I join the rest of the council and say we think it's very exciting too, and it's great for the kids. I do remember the other one because that's when I first moved into Titusville, and I lived in that area over there, my wife and I. And it was very popular, and it was always curious to us as to why it, times change, I guess, but why it didn't continue. But this is a new world, isn't it?
Sir.
So, I have two lights here. Member Jordan?
Yeah, I wanted to make the motion, so I'm not sure what.
I was just going to clarify hours. River Lanes, Thursdays it's midnight, and then Friday and Saturday it's 1 a.m., just so we have a frame of reference.
Okay.
Yes, sir, please.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve conditional use permit application number 7-2019. Let's roll Space Coast.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Well, question, is that with the conditions?
Yeah, with the conditions, but we're changing the time to midnight, not 1 o'clock, midnight.
Okay.
Okay.
That's said. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign? You got it, and good luck.
Thank you so
We hope
much.
you do very well.
That's exciting.
All right. Next item is ordinance's first reading. We don't have any new business.
Thanks, Rob.
No old business, new business.
Yeah, we're on item 12A, which is resolution, and there's a typo in your packet. It's resolution 2-2020, and we also have provided hard copies of the resolution with strike through and underline for your consideration. Based on a request of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Council approved advisability to amend the code to require wetland surveys be consistent with the St. John's Water Management District standards. Attached is identical language that are contained in the ordinance is proposed for the development review, technical manuals, which is included for consideration as part of the meeting agenda tonight. So what we're doing is we're taking the recommendations of Planning and Zoning Commission to add this information to our technical manuals. And Ms. Busak is available to answer questions that you may have on this item.
Ms. Busak, any comments? Okay, that's okay. Council, any questions of staff? I see none. Clerk, are there any cards on this item?
Yes, sir. We have one card. It's Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsett Avenue, professional engineer. This is a similar as the talking about the mapping of the wetlands, surveying for the wetlands. And I do want to make a correction, is that there is a letter from St. John's that questions some things that I was doing, but it's not written by a professional engineer.
Mr. Johnson, could you remove your sign or move it to where the cameras are no longer being blocked?
Oh, okay. Let's see. Does that work? Does that work? Okay.
That's even worse. Go lower. Lower would be better.
Put it lower. Well, you guys can see. How about put it on the floor? I can lower it. I can lower it. I can go really easy. Now let's see if that's going to work. How about that? Yes, no? Hello?
I can't take that.
That's better. It's workable? Okay. I couldn't go lower.
All right, time's up.
Okay, Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsett Avenue. And I'm just, first of all, I wanted to correct, is that it's still true that you don't have any professional engineer that has disputed my facts. They have a letter from St. John's regarding some issues, and it had to do with flow, it had to do with benchmarks and so forth. And I'm not saying that there was a disagreement. There was a question about the flowing of water. And if you remember in Baker's subdivision, there was a time that we had some fairly heavy rains, but what happened is we had fish in Carroll Avenue, and it was a pretty bad situation. So what the city did is they took their control structure they had permitted for the St. Johns River Water Management District, and they knocked a big hole in it. The hole is over 20 times bigger than what it was. And so they did change some things. It was a significant modification to that control structure at the dam at the senior center. So that's what that correspondence, there's a correspondence St. John's regarding that, but no PE is identified. It was assigned by an administrator. So in this one, I want to recommend also that the surveys show, as required by minimum technical standards, the ditches. In this one, this particular case, what I'm talking about again is that the city has put these dams in, and they're not cleaning the canals, and so they're taking people's property by conversion to wetlands and conversion to property. And there's just no question about it. I've signed and sealed information to it, and even a survey that I've signed and sealed. So the city is guilty of illegal activities of taking people's property. So I guess if I tried to sue you, my understanding talking to attorneys is that I could win the suit, I could lose the suit. If I win the suit, I won't make any money, because it'll just something that you pay so much, and then you still it's just a money just throwing money away. So that's the general opinion, and there's certainly no guarantee that I'll win the way the situation is. So there's no suit, and I'm not the only one who's burdened with this. So again, I repeat to you is that the city needs to, in this case, for example, the dams, missing records, they're all gone. The dams, City of Titusville, the records are gone. I had another minute.
I see no motion.
Thank you.
Just heard something interesting. Maybe this is about money. Be interesting after all this time that he has a reason. Okay. I guess we're on mayor's report? Yes. Or
So you'll need to
petition.
vote on resolution 2-220, amending the development review procedures for
I'm
technical
sorry.
manuals.
I'm down here. Okay.
Okay, go do it.
Sir?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve resolution number 2019, amending development review procedures technical manual relating to wetland surveys.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Diesel,
Yes.
Member Stokel,
Yes.
Member Jordan,
Yes.
Member Nelson.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Petitions and requests from the public present. I hate to do this. Oh, no, you're fine. We want to hear from somebody different once in a while.
715 Tropic Street, the Norwood House. I just wanted to say how excited I am being on the Historic Preservation Board and also meeting with sometimes members of the tree team and then coming to this meeting and hearing from especially a couple of you how much you appreciate and want to work with the TEC and the tree team and rewrite the tree ordinance and the LID. It's just very exciting to me, having grown up in Florida, in Orlando, and seeing what happened over there. And I really miss old Florida, and I found it over here. And people say, why did you move to Titusville? And I just say, because you get to the St. Johns River, and then you're in Titusville, and then there's the beach, and there's just so much nature over here that's so wonderful and so reminiscent of the Florida that I grew up in. And I just appreciate you wanting to maintain as much as that. I understand that progress is important and development, but development in a LID way can just maintain so much of the beauty and nature that we have here in North Brevard. And I just hope you all work hard on the LID projects and develop the town that way, because it keeps the history going, too, the history of old Florida. And you don't find that anymore anywhere in the state. I mean, I travel around a lot because I play in a band and we work all over Florida. And it's all the same, and it's strip mall and pavement and subdivision, cookie cutter, where they take down all the trees and plant toothpicks and twigs, when it could be done so much better. And if we just work hard with all the various citizens advisory committees you have, the TEC and the staff that you have that works hard too on this, I'm just so enthused. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. You've made my evening much better, I can tell you. We appreciate that, ma'am. And again, apologies to all of you. Except you, Al. You got a big kick out of the whole thing. Okay. Let me get to the right item. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong page here. Yeah, I know. I have to say, is there anybody else for petitions and requests? Okay. Mayor and council reports. The only thing I have to add to, or I guess to detract from my report, is that I was unable, due to a cold, that kept me from going to the Challenger ceremony on Saturday, and I regret that. It's the first one I've missed, but unavoidable, I guess. Council reports. Yes, go right ahead.
Well, due to your illness, I have several things to report. First of all, I know I can speak for all of us, and I don't want to do that, but I think we all were very impressed with our Grove night. That was very impressive, and it meant a lot to me. The two pastors, Brad and Barry Russell, are two people that I knew when they were little kids and knew when I coached them in football. I've known the family, and it's just amazing to me that those two little guys turned the Grove into the Grove. That just means a lot to me. and I know Member Jordan was there. The Martin Luther King breakfast was amazing. If I missed any of y'all, I'll speak up. But that was just amazing. I don't want to get into great detail, but they had this guy with a puppet that was just incredible. He, like, the whole, oh man, he was just incredible doing gospel music. So that was incredible, an outstanding time. And I know I'm going to reiterate what you said there, but just being able to stand and be part of the naming of the Martin Luther King Boulevard, 405 South Street, man, I just kind of stood and watched and just took pictures. It was awesome. Just awesome to be there. And then the Martin Luther King Day Parade, just full of pride. And I'm proud to be able to say that I've been at every one since its inception. And I don't know, is that about 12 now? It's been a while. And then the Astronaut Memorial, that was a proud moment for me too. I've always attended them, and I got to stand in for the mayor. And I will say that Al started my introduction with, unfortunately, the mayor won't be here. So my first line was, I get nervous when I get introduced with unfortunately. So it went very well from there, and it was a real honor for me because my dad was such a big, just like so many of you all, but such a big part of the space program, and his 90th birthday would have been the day before I got to speak. So, gosh, that was fun. And, when you're at one of these space things and all of us are in the same boat, it's kind of like family. I mean, I grew up with these people, so that was pretty awesome. And then I got the opportunity to do the proclamation at the First Presbyterian Church after 133 years. So many mixed emotions because it was such a celebration of what they've done for 133 years, but it was really sad too. And, it's also scary, quite honestly, how a church for the 133 years can suddenly not be there anymore. So I think it's a wake-up call to all of us in that area. But what an honor to be at that church and to take communion at the last service there. So then I got to do the proclamation and present it to the Pastor Laura, and just outstanding. So got to do a lot of things. So with that, it was my honor, Mayor. I don't think that anybody can replace you to be there, but it's my honor to be there to represent Titusville.
No, I appreciate you standing in for me on those. Obviously, there's times when it's better not to go out and get other people sick, right?
No doubt.
Okay, so thank you. Anyone else have any reports they'd like to make? You're up.
I'm not sure that this is necessarily a report. I will say that the Martin Luther King parade seems to get bigger and bigger, and my truck seems to run better and better.
You pushed it 1 year.
I pushed it 1 year. So, 2 blocks. Yep. So the truck is running better and better each year. So maybe it's happier.
That's good to hear.
That was really good to hear. But I did have something I sort of wanted to bring up. Bill Young was here 2 weeks ago and gave us an article that he had written for a paper, which was, he was talking about having a bicycle tour of the solar energy in Titusville. And it actually went back to, I want to say, the 1800s. And I'm just looking at it, I thought, wow, it's sort of interesting to know that it went that far back and we had solar energy back in the early 1900s. And I don't know how you guys feel about it. I don't know how city manager feels about it, but I thought that might be something really cool to put into talking points. So I don't know if you guys had a chance to read it, but any thoughts? I don't know.
I don't have any problems with it. That's basically published by staff, certainly, so I suggest you
talk to Scott.
Sure, absolutely.
It just seems sort of cool that they had these people coming in and doing these bike tours.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, that was just sort of a thought I had.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure staff will look at facilitating it. All right. I don't see anything else up there from council. Anybody? Nope. Okay, city manager?
Yes, sir. Just a couple of dates, no action items for council. We are beginning our strategic planning process for the budget. Your first meeting will be February 22nd, which is a Saturday, at 9 o'clock to 12. We do have a different facilitator this year, and we are starting a little bit later than we normally do, but this is one of the recommendations from the last year's process that January is a little early to start, so we're going to start at the end of February. And subject to council's questions, that concludes my report.
I don't see any questions. City Attorney, anything? All right. With that, I think we've completed our duty. I will declare this meeting adjourned.